Hey everybody, Jem Schofield of the C47, and welcome to another episode of Gearbox. Yes, you heard that right, Gearbox. If you have history with the C47 and the content I've created, you may have seen a Gearbox or two, maybe a Gearbox 2.0, but the old school episodes were all about me finding gear and kit that I was interested in, that I thought I could or am already using in my productions, and then just going over what that kit is. Not an unboxing, not a bullet list of all the features of that new product, but just what the kit is and how it can be used in small to no crew production. So I'm going to do that today. It's going to be around a product called Smoke GENIE, but I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm taking an already broadcasted live stream, and I'm going to go ahead and re-edit it. I'm going to trim the fat. I'm going to take out a lot of the back and forth with the chat, the comments, the reactions, the banter, if you will, and just focus on the gear as much as I can in this new format. And what I'd love to do going forward is do this more, where I'm doing a live stream where I get to interact with you, answer questions, the people who are there. And then for the replays, have an edited version that takes out all of or most of that stuff. So you can just focus on the gear, what it's all about, and how it can be used. So again, Smoke GENIE, let's check it out. First thing is that the kit that I have with me today is the Pro Kit. It's this kit right here. It comes in a Pelly style case, and it's nicely, well, you'll hear some pops and things like that. But it's all set up packaging wise to fit all of the stuff that is in front of me. So you can see there, it's designed to, it's not even pick and pluck. It's just all designed very specifically to hold those things. So let me just go ahead and drop that here on the floor. And then we can get to this stuff right here. And this is all of the stuff that comes in that Pro Kit. Now, not for faint of heart, it's not inexpensive. The Pro Kit is $750 US. But again, there's a lot of pieces to this kit, and it's very well thought out. And I want to just go through each of these parts and show you what they are. And I don't pretend this is for everybody, but I think it's fun to do these demos and talk about stuff. And I'm not really an unboxing person. I'm a practical application person, like Rick, who's a great DP. And let's go ahead and take a look at it. So the sort of heart of the unit right here is the Smoke GENIE itself. It's this handheld unit. And it runs off of these 18650 batteries. You've seen these many times in a lot of products. Not dissimilar by the thousands probably that would be inside of a Tesla, and many, many other products that are probably powering your cameras and other things that are battery powered. So it takes two of these rechargeable batteries. They're very easy to source. This is your actual button that allows you to operate the unit itself. And then turning around here, there's basically a very simple interface. If I press that button once, it's a battery check. And then who knows what they'll do with firmware in the future. 3 times, and it basically powers the unit up. And then 3 times again, and it powers the unit down. And then these buttons here are relatively simple. There's an up arrow, a down arrow, and then a little circle. And that just basically allows you to select the different modes, essentially your smoke amount, your wind amount, and then also just disabling either one of those. So that's really what that is. And then if we take a look at the rest of the unit, there's a protective cover here, which I've just taken off. And there is the chamber itself, which has a food safe cloud. They call it cloud formula. It's a 120 milliliter. You can buy more of this stuff. And it's basically a combination of vegetable glycerin and propylene glycol. So it's designed, I mean, the company was started by people who were in theatrical and magic in terms of their space. So they are people who would use this product, and that's why they designed it, because they had cobbled together all of these other ways of doing stuff, and they thought this product would have a place inside of the market. So these chambers here, it comes with two of them. They are kept inside of these little containers. And when you are transporting this whole unit inside the Pelly style case, what you want to do is take that chamber out and store it inside of here. So you get a backup one, at least with this particular kit. And then you can see here on the actual chamber itself, there's a little rubber piece, and you lift that up, and that's how you actually fill the chamber with the juice. So that goes inside of there, and you fill it up. First time you're using it, you wouldn't have it attached to the actual Smoke Genie. You would fill it up and just let it sit for about 5 minutes each time you fill the chamber for the first time. And then that little rubber piece that is how you fill this, it also changes color as it starts to heat up. I believe it's a pink color when it's getting too hot for you to touch, but that shouldn't be a problem because you should always have this protective cover on it anyway. So that's the base of the actual unit itself. And then we'll take a look at the other accessories that it comes with. So there's a fan here, which has 3 settings. This is also using one of those standard rechargeable batteries, so the same style, 18650. And then you have this, which is just operated at 3 levels as a fan. And this is so that you can use this product as a hazer. And then over here, we have a remote control, which is really just based on the settings of your Smoke Genie. So when you set your smoke and wind levels inside of here, then this just activates and allows that to emit from the Smoke Genie. There's a quarter 20 tap that comes with it, just a little one here, male to female, and that just goes on the bottom of the Smoke Genie. So there is a tap here, and it is metal. It is not a plastic threaded tap, which is good. And then you have all of the nozzles that come with the unit, which I'm taking a look at right here. So we'll try to get a slightly closer view of these different nozzles. This is a jet tip nozzle, and we'll take a look at how that works. That emits really kind of has a very small hole in it, and it pushes the smoke or the fog out quite far. There's a regular precision nozzle. This is a short one. And then there is a longer version, depending on how far you want that to push out, but also just slightly different effect on there. There's a 60-degree nozzle here, which you basically attach generally to one of these other precision nozzles so that you can have your smoke go in a specific direction. There is a silicone one here, which is obviously great because you can move your emitted smoke to different places. And then there's something called a liquid nozzle. And this is something I'll show you in a short while, which is designed to give you a dry ice style effect. So that's basically, whoops, that's jarring as I go into that. That's because I have this tight shot that I can do an Ecamm live. That's basically the overview of the different accessories that they have. I believe they have a more basic kit, which has a little less of these, one chamber, not all of the other thing, not the fan, but you can obtain or buy the fan separately. And using these things in different combinations and with different smoke and wind levels will give you different effects when you're using it. Now, the one thing to note about this, because one of the big questions people are going to have, I had, is why am I not just using a hazer? Why am I not just using a fog or a smoke machine for my productions? And I think that the answer it's probably twofold. One is precision, because when you're using a product like this and you attach a precision nozzle or that silicone nozzle here, you can put your smoke in very specific places. In fact, from a magician standpoint, one of the things that they would do with their products is hide these so that they could have magicians and effects for stage stuff come out of different places and still do, which is why this exists. But obviously you can and I hope you'll see in a short while where this can be used in other ways for video production and filmmaking and tabletop and all that kind of fun stuff. So precision is important, and then just portability. The fact that you don't have to plug this thing into mains and you can just go anywhere with it when you want to use it. There's a little guide that comes with it, which has little recommendations, which is great in terms of the smoke and wind levels that you set this to for different types of effects. And then, of course, what types of precision tips or accessories you'd use for that. So, for instance, for default settings for smoke effects, they say for haze, we would set the smoke level to level 3 and the wind level to level 5. So, you're pushing out a pretty thick smoke, and then you're using the little fan here as an atomizer to take that smoke and just break it up and to create a haze effect. For fog, you're using level 3 smoke and then a level 5 wind, but you're using something like the jet tip in order to do the fog effect. And then you use these different precision tips. And for instance, if I wanted to do a dry ice effect, I might take this short, doesn't have to be, this short precision tip, and then this 60-degree one, and then we take the liquid nozzle and we will put that on there, and in combination, I'll show you in a few minutes how that's going to create a dry ice effect. The difference is instead of a wind level of 5, you go down to a wind level of 2. So you're trying to keep that smoke in a particular area when you're doing that. And then you use different combinations. Anything above level 3 for your smoke level is for short bursts where you're getting lots of smoke, but there'll be a timer because it will heat up the chamber in the unit. So you might only get, let's say, 10 seconds if you're using that mode. So that's all in the documentation. It's actually very well documented, I think. And right now, I think we should go ahead and have a play with this thing and see how it works. Getting to this a lot faster than on the YouTube one that I did before. So let's break down a little bit of the space here and a few of the things I'm going to show you. I'm going to turn on another light, so I'll be a little bit overexposed here, and that's so you can kind of see the space. And there's nothing too fancy going on here. If you're looking at this, you look frame left. There's a C47 book light there, which is basically just a 4-foot by 6-foot frame that sits on the ground, or you can obviously grip it a different way. And I've got a grid cloth in the front. There you can't see it, but on the other side there's unbleached muslin, and I'm just taking a 1x2 flex light, and I'm just going to go ahead and bounce that off of there. So that's going to be our primary light source for what I'm going to do for sort of the tabletop side of this, but also a good thing to turn on when I'm showing you the haze effect, because if you don't have light in the space, it's very hard to see that effect when you're doing stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and play around with that. It's very simple in terms of the setup there. If you're familiar with lighting fixtures, frame right over there is just a dado. It's old school with the ballast and the dimmer built in. Still some of the best precision lights that are out there on the market, that patented sort of 2-lens system. And they do make LED versions of them. And this is not an advertisement for dado light, but I still have 3 of those in my kit, and I love them. Whew, I am definitely a little hot in terms of exposure here, but let's go ahead and have a play. I think we'll start with the hazer thing, kind of get an idea of what that's like. So what I'll do is, and I'll probably turn down this key at some point so we can see how much that isn't affecting the tabletop stuff. So I'm going to basically take this, and I'll just take that tip that I had before, or maybe we'll even use this this little precision like jet tip for fog, and we'll set that to a 3, and then I'm just going to go ahead and select my wind level and set that to 5, and we'll go ahead and have a play. So I'm just going to go back to this view here, and we'll go ahead and blast the room a little bit and see what happens. Yeah, let's go ahead and check it out. Hopefully you can still hear me here. I don't think I screwed up the audio. You should be able to hear me when I'm moving around. There I am. So we're going to turn this on. I'm going to do it on its lowest level, and we'll just blast the room a little. You'll hear the fan for a minute or two. I'll get some haze in this space, and we'll go from there. Okay, there we go. And then here we go. And start to take some of that, and I'm just going to get some around the room. I'm also going to turn on that little light. It's a kind of big light, the book light. We'll get some in the back over here. And again, you should still be able to hear me. And I'm just getting some of this stuff out into the room. And when I come around here, I'll just turn on that book light. There we go. Let me strike that. Maybe a little too bright right now. We'll see. Yeah, we'll make it work. And we'll get some more of this in here. Let's get some behind so that the light's hitting it. And I'm basically just breaking up those particles so that we get a haze effect as opposed to just a straight fog. And then we'll see what happens. I'll do it for another 30 seconds or so. Now, there's not a lot of air movement inside of here, and that obviously has an effect on when you're using stuff like this. But one of the things that I'll do is I'll go turn off that other key when I come back over here, and we can take a look at what this looks like from another camera angle. So you can sort of see here that the space is starting to get a little bit of that haze, and it's starting to hang in the space. If I had an HVAC system, some air conditioning or something like that coming from the ceiling or from a split or something like that, then, you know, that's going to be moving this product around the space. Outside as well, you'd probably want to go for shorter bursts at those higher smoke levels so you can get a better concentration. And when they do the tabletop stuff, I think you'll start to see that a little bit. But it gives you a sense of the fact that you can absolutely create a haze effect with the Smoke GENIE. And one of the things that is sort of indicative of haze is you'll see a lift here in terms of, and I'm just going in on a tighter shot here so you can see it. You start to see your shadows lift. And that's one of the things that is a telltale sign of haze. So more or less, and you still may need to, you know, move that around and wait for it to be where you want it to be. But in a space that doesn't have a lot of airflow, that haze will hang in the space for quite a long time. Let me go ahead and take the jet tip off of here. What I'll do is I'm just going to leave the short one on here right now. And if you actually want to see, before I do that, what it looks like coming out of the unit, let me just do that for you first. If you want to just see it sort of coming out of the unit when I'm using just the jet tip, you can see what's happening here. And I'll switch back to the wide, and you can see. And this is in a continuous mode. So there's a fair amount of juice coming out of this thing. And it can do some damage when it comes to, I don't mean damage, but it can do some damage when it comes to actually having an effect on things. So I'm switching over here to the shorter precision tube, and then I'm going to go ahead with that 60-degree, go ahead and put this on or off, the liquid one. Actually, let me just show you before I get over to the tabletop stuff, the silicone one. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but if I go over here to, well, here, I can do it over there too, but let's just do it here for now. You can see that the nice thing about it is you can just move it around where you want it to be. And again, I'm still in that same kind of setup as I was before. And what are you going to do? It's what this product is. All right, so take that off. We'll go back to the short one. We'll go ahead and bring this with us, which is the, no, I'm just kidding. We'll bring the liquid nozzle over there, and I'll bring my remote so I can increase and decrease this key light that's to my left as I need to when we're setting up the tabletop stuff. Again, in about 10 minutes or so, we'll definitely open up to some questions, but let me go ahead and get this set up and get over into the other area. I'll start here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'll run back over and switch it over to the other camera, which is this hero camera, when we are ready to go ahead and shoot that. So yeah, let's go ahead and go to the wide. So basically, I'm just going to drop this over here on the table, and I've got a little monitor here that I can see my picture with. So I'm going to go over and just move this little backdrop. It's just a silly little backdrop here that's going to sit behind this. And depending on the angle, will have a lot to do with what kind of shadows you're seeing with your product. And now you're seeing that book light working more. I'm kind of back keying this right now. Relatively large source. And obviously, if I felt like it was a little too hot, I could go back here behind and just ride the levels here. So you can see here, there it is getting darker. There it is off. And then, just dialing in those levels there. We'll leave it about there for now. Kind of hard to see what the interwebs are going to see. Whoa, actually, sorry. Now you can see what I'm doing. I apologize. I switched it in my mind, but here I am increasing the intensity of that 1x2 LED going through the book light, and then it's just sort of a back key. I think we're a little hotter before. I'll bring it down, and that probably will work for now. And then you can take a look at the image, and you'll see if I start to move this background a little bit, depending on the angle of the background, will have an effect on how I'm seeing my shadows and stuff like that. So sometimes you'll have to just find that place where the angle is correct based on your setup. And then in addition to that, might still be a little bit hot in terms of the image, but might be okay. I'm going to go ahead and strike that little dado light over here. So again, I'll switch over to the wide shot. That's this one right here. And if I just strike that light, I could gel that, but let's just go ahead and I'll A/B it for you. You can see there it is. That's it off. There it is on. And then it has this, lensing system here that if I increase or decrease it, you can see that you can be very precise. And then if I turn the barn doors with a sliver, there's just a lot of precision that's very hard to get without a hard light source. So definitely something that you might want to have in your kit. LEDs with some lensing are starting to get better at this. And I would say that probably the best one for tabletop stuff is still going the dado route. But you can get a sense of what that's like. And then there's a lot of control in terms of the intensity of that light as well, in terms of how much or how little you want that to be affecting what the light is pointed at. So you get the general idea, and then we'll put some sort of scotch in that frame there. It's not a match, unfortunately, to the Glendronach, but who wants to waste all of that? And then just based on what you're doing or the look that you're looking for, you may or may not like that, or you may want to gel it a little bit so it's a little bit cooler to match the other source. But just depends. And, that's the part of being creative and doing stuff in terms of how much or how little you want something to be there. If I'm looking at my monitor over here, I'm probably by eye going to pull that down just a little bit in terms of that back key. But that really just depends on what you're trying to do and how you want the product to read on camera, so on and so forth. And then, of course, the key light that I was talking about, which is my key light over here, which is just a bounced source off of basically a white sound blanket. If I increase or decrease that, which I'm going to do right now, you'll see that that is, in fact, having an effect on the actual image that we're seeing in the frame as well. Completely, no, but it's definitely having an effect. If I start bringing that up to our original level, so it's kind of around where exposure would be for me, then you can see how much it's having an effect. So maybe we want to be just slightly moodier on that one side where our main light source isn't, is coming from or isn't coming from. And then we'll just leave it like that for now. We'll see. And then we'll go ahead and check out the the Smoke GENIE. So let's just take a look at it right now, just with sort of the standard setting, which is I'm going to go back in and set it to a 3 and a 5, which is what we were using for the Hazer. And I'm just going to show you what that looks like. Maybe we'll just put a little, little, little something inside of the glass there. So that gives you a little something in there. And then just sort of coming in from the back over here, maybe I'll turn this a little bit or take off this 60-degree nozzle. It's not really great for just this standard effect. And I just want you to check out the output. It's really more about that right now, so you can kind of see what it's doing. And that's, kind of on its standard setup there. And you can see what's happening. And then the effect of, if I'm just doing it right now as just kind of like a smoke or fog effect, you can see what happens when I start to put that around the product, right? And you can see how it's reacting when I'm doing that. When you're in a contained area like the glass or a beaker or something like that, it's going to hang for a long time. Depending on the airflow in the space, obviously that's going to have an effect. And as it's starting to move towards our back key light, you can see that it's starting to pick up, and light that from behind, which is generally a nice look and feel. Some of it's hanging right here on the table just a little bit, and you can see that. But it's really when you start to take this right here, which is the liquid nozzle, and you put that on, where things start to change. But I do need to make a couple of changes in terms of the settings themselves. As I said before, we're going to go in to the actual wind level and decrease that. So smoke level is going to stay at 3. Wind level is going to now change to 2. So it's going to be a more contained effect when we do that. So let's take a look at that now and see what it's like when I start to lay that down. When you're doing close proximity to an object like I'm going to be doing here, and I wouldn't recommend using it upside down, but on the side, it works well. You will find that it will leave a little bit of a residue, right? So when you're doing haze effects or just some fog in the area, tends to be broken up enough that you don't have that. With this, you would just take a damp cloth to wipe it up. But here we go. It's very precise. And if you're not introducing a lot of extra air, then you can start to see that it is very, very different effect-wise than what we had before. And you can see that it's hanging a lot more when we're using that dry ice effect with the product. I'm feeling like that back key is a little hot for me, especially because it's picking up that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and dial that down just a scotch so we can see that. But you can get a sense of how that's hanging there and the effect that you get when you're using the liquid nozzle. So very, very different than the other ones. And I think a pretty great tool as well, once you start playing with the different smoke levels and the wind levels, a really cool tool for product photography. I mean, obviously it has a lot of application in that space. And then switching back here, that's just with the key some more. And you can lay more of this down. Has a lot of application for tabletop and things like that. So that kind of gives you a sense. You can kind of see the space there, what it looks like. And I'll come back now to this view and take some questions. So whoever's here, if you have any questions related to the Smoke GENIE or just regular production stuff as well, I'm happy to answer it. But probably questions about this first. I do ask, like I do on the YouTube channel, if you can put an @ symbol and the C47 if it's a question to me. That helps immensely. But I'll be looking out for them too if I see a question mark at the end. So if anybody has any questions right now about the product, again, happy to answer them. But I think a pretty cool piece of kit. again, for me, I talk about this quite a lot to people. There's kind of that below 50%, above 50% equation that you have to start to think about when it comes to making an investment in equipment. For some people, it makes a lot more sense to rent equipment from production to production. For other people, it makes a lot of sense to invest, especially if it's a piece of kit that you're going to see yourself using 50, 60, 70 plus percent of the time or more. If that's the case, then it makes a lot of sense for you to invest in that. And that's a good buy to be an owner operator of a piece of equipment. In most situations, for somebody like me, historically, for instance, I would not use a drone more than 50% of the time that I'm doing productions. In fact, that percentage is much, much, much lower than 50%. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for somebody like me to spend the money on a drone unless I was going to be using it um, on a regular basis. But that could change depending on the types of productions you're doing. Adrian, how long does it last? It depends on your usage of the unit itself. I've used this now for a couple of these episodes, and I'm probably uh, about halfway for the stuff I'm doing, but I'm also sometimes doing stuff where I'm laying down quite a lot of that dry ice effect or a lot of that juice. I can tell you that the bottle itself is going to give you somewhere between 200 and 240 minutes worth of use. I would imagine if you're doing high bursts at a smoke level of 5, then you're going to be closer to that 200 minutes. And then if you're just doing shorter bursts, probably at the higher end of that. And then a lot of dry ice effects also tends to use a little bit more. But you can order these. I don't know how much they cost for refills, but my recommendation would be don't just go out and buy juice for a regular hazer or fog machine or some other brand. You're not going to go to if you're here in the States, a Guitar Center and just say, oh, can I have a gallon of fog juice and put it into this particular unit? It is a formulation that's designed specifically for this handheld unit, which is good and bad. I mean, it's designed for that. It's a lot of minutes. I mean, you can get a lot of time out of this thing here. And I've been playing with this for the last couple of weeks, and I'm not even to the label on this. So I think quite a lot of time. And having the two chambers, they are glass, by the way, but having two chambers, I think, makes a lot of sense. And I think you'll see a lot of other configurations from this company in the future. Again, just as sort of a comparison here, if we just take a look at, I'll do it over my left shoulder here, the let me set it back to just sort of the standard smoke level, wind level, so a 3 and a 5. We can take a look at this tip right here and see what's coming out of it. So this is the short precision tip. Okay, and then I don't think you really are going to see a huge difference with the long precision tip. It's just maybe getting into a certain place a little bit easier. Little bit more precise here. And then we'll switch over to that little jet tip and see what that's like. And that's what this is all about. You try these things, you see what the effects are, basically in terms of the different accessories, but also combinations of smoke and wind levels. So you can see the jet tip has less of that confined stream here that's about the same size, and it's really pushing it away from the unit itself. And then we already took a look at the silicone one. And then the curved one, of course, is just so you can have more precision using all of these to get it in a certain direction. Oh, and the remote. Again, it's really just designed to take whatever your settings are, and then it's an on-off. So it's just emitting or not emitting. So if I just take the remote here, it's whatever the settings are set to, and then let go. It's very responsive, instantaneous. Comes with another little battery, not one of the same kind. Kind of those, not proprietary. They're easily sourceable, but it's 23 amp, 12 volt little mercury. Mercury, 0% mercury battery. I forgot the number for this one, but they all have a little number on them. So you look them up on Batteries to Go or Amazon or wherever you're going to source them from, and they'll be easy to get. But it comes with one of those batteries for the remote. And my imagination says that it's going to last for a long time with the unit. All right, that's Smoke GENIE. And for me, definitely a piece of kit that I can use in my small to no crew productions. Tabletop, product stuff, of course, hazing in controlled environments. You can definitely use this thing outside, but the more airflow there is, then the more you're going to have to push that fog, that smoke, that haze out there. And it's really, in my opinion, ideal for interior locations in the form factor that it is. But the fact that I don't have to plug that thing in and I can be very precise in terms of where that product goes is amazing. Not the least expensive nor the most expensive piece of kit out there. If it's something you think you could use in your productions regularly, check out the link or links, depending on how many I put there, in the description. Subscribe, tap the bell, all that stuff you're supposed to do, and I'll see you guys next time on Gearbox.